Number nine. Number nine.
Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm really pleased to be joined once again by the fantastic Oliver Saunders. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Ross. How are you?
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. So, yeah, today we're going to be doing something maybe a little bit different from what we normally talk about. Normally, I guess we talk about albums and artists and songs that we really like, or kind of top 10 favourites, But today we're going to be doing our top 10 least favourite Beatles songs. So we're still talking about, I guess, an artist that we both really like, but yeah, we're going to be doing like our least favourite songs. So it just wanted this to be a bit of fun. This video, we're not trying to cause an argument or anything, or certainly like at least between like me and Ollie, like we don't want to start like a fight like or anything, but no, just like a bit of fun we thought, like for like this video here, yeah, just like our least favorite Beatles songs. A few, I guess, kind of ground rules for this one. So we're only doing sort of like officially released Beatles tracks from like the main canon of songs. I hope that's all right, like Ollie, for like your like list. So like we're just doing like the main studio albums plus sort of singles and B-sides released during the band's career, basically. And we're also just doing and we're also excluding like any covers as well, because the Beatles did like a cover like in like the early days, but we're not doing those. Some of those are a bit questionable and probably would make your list, but like
Mr. Moonlight.
Like against. Yeah, indeed. But like we decided against those, so it will be quite an interesting list, and I'm quite eager to see what Ollie has chosen. So I don't know if you maybe want to kick us off with your
I'm pleased with doing least favorite. That's the way you phrased it, because I wouldn't say really I hate any of these songs as such. I detest any of them. They're just the ones that I like the least.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sense. Yeah, like I'm like the same. Yeah. I guess as with any artist, there will be ones you like more than others, and we're not trying to say that these are bad songs or anything, or that even dislike or hate them, But I mean, there might be a couple like on like this list, like towards the top, like that, like we genuinely don't like. But among the Beatles' career, there will be ones that we just like less than others. So yeah, least favorite it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is actually the list I've actually struggled to make the most. I actually quite struggled to get 10 for this, but I finally got there. So 10th place, I don't actually own the single of this, it's a B-side, so the best I can hold up is Past Masters. I am going for Thank You Girl. Which is the B-side to From Me to You, I think. Yeah, really early song. It's never really been a favourite of mine. It doesn't really do anything for me. It's just, I like the early Beatles stuff. I like a lot of their early stuff, but I don't know, there's just something about Thank You Girl. It's never connected with us. And I think both Paul and John have been quite dismissive of the song at times, sort of saying that when they're talking about the later work, they always kind of compare it to a song like Thank You Girl and how they got much better as writers compared to that. But yeah, it's just a song I don't listen to all that often. So yeah, number 10 for me, I would go Thank You Girl.
Interesting, yeah. I maybe slightly like overlooked that one, but yeah, certainly among me, it's probably one of my least played Beatles songs. But maybe it was one I kind of struggled to kind of think of anything really. I guess, yeah, bad to say, which would probably be a lot of these ones are just kind of sort of meh kind of songs. Now I'm gonna go straight to number 10 for a really controversial pick, I'm sure. So again, it's a single. Again, it's a B-side, and like again, I've not got a whole big collection like a Beatles single, so I have to show Past Masters for this. And don't fall off your seat, but I'm gonna go for Don't Let Me Down.
Don't let me down.
Number 10. What? I see your face. Yeah. So for me, there's the good with this song, Lennon's vocal. Excellent, amazing, you can't fault it. The bad for me is it's just very repetitive. That chorus, they just go round and round with it. Very repetitive, just the one line, don't let me down, again and again and again. And then you think, okay, if it's got a great verse, that could make it up. But then the verse is just doesn't really say much to me. I get it, yeah, it's a very much like a love song to Yoko and that. But it's just like nobody loves me like she does. Ooh, she does. Yeah, she is. It's got too much of that kind of thing, like for me in it, and it then just it just seems like a slightly quite like a non-inspired arrangement, and it's just never been a favourite. So and Don't Let Me Down, number 10. But I know that one is going to be very, very, very controversial.
I will say that for Don't Let Me Down, I don't like the B-side, the original single version of it. I think the Let It Be Naked version, which is a combination of the two rooftop versions, is far superior. I think the rooftop recording of Don't Let Me Down, I don't know why that was never put out as a single, as the B-side, rather than that recording. I think there's a bit more passion, I would say, in the live version compared to the recorded version, but yeah, that would be a very controversial choice, I think. Number 9, I don't know if this is a controversial choice, actually, but I'm going to pick it anyway. We're going with something off A Hard Day's Night, and it's the 4th track, I'm Happy Just to Dance With You.
Before this dance is through, I think I love you too. I'm so happy when you...
Which is I'm sure my brother has said to me numerous times that his favourite George Harrison song is I'm Happy Just to Dance With You. And I always say to him, what? Have you never heard any other George Harrison song? So, to me, it is just filler. When I listen to Hard Day's Night, I always skip this song. It annoys me. I don't know what it is about it. It just annoys us. And I know George didn't actually write it. John and Paul wrote it. So I kind of think the fact that John and Paul wrote it and neither of them wanted to sing it, they gave it to George, kind of says a bit about it, because obviously by this point he had wrote Don't Bother Me on the album before, so he probably would have had another few songs in the tank by then. But yeah, it's a song that I don't care for. It's never clicked to me. It's never been one of my favourites. And yeah, it's an upbeat, it's a jolly song. As a song to listen to on its own, yeah, it would be one of my least favourites. I would say number 9 for me anyway.
Interesting, yeah. Again, that's what I probably wouldn't rank it among my absolute favourite Beatles tracks, but I think it's a perfectly decent like early track. I quite like. I think it's Lennon's rhythm guitar particularly. You know, it's very similar, I guess, like All My Lovin', that, you know, that kind of very fastly kind of strummed like rhythm guitar. I just think it's quite a nice song. So we do again disagree there, but respectfully so. So anyway, my number 9, I'm sticking with the kind of like the kind of Get Back, Let It Be kind of era. Off the Beatles. So, and I'm going with a George song, For You Blue.
Sweet and lovely girl, I love you.
Which is, again, for me, another song which is just slightly poor on the lyrical side of things, you know, because you're sweet and lovely girl, I love you. He's not saying anything really like with that song, and it's just also the fact that, I mean, George at this time had so many great songs. The fact that Lennon and McCartney basically stuck their noses up at like All Things Must Pass, but yet, you know, wanted to record this. And I guess perhaps there's a bit of maybe George kind of holding back some of his better songs for his eventual solo debut, and then just giving the Beatles our filler like this. There's maybe a bit of that going on like as well. But it's just a puzzling song like as to why like they decided to go with this like rather than another George song like for this album. And the kind of recording of it, I don't think is great. I'm not a big fan of like Lennon's sort of steel, sort of slide guitar on it, and then McCartney's, I think, they play like a piano, but a kind of weird, kind of honky tonk kind of piano. It's got a very odd kind of sound on it. It's just a song which, yeah, like, would I skip over it? Probably not. I would probably play it like if I ever played this album, but this is probably one of my least favorite and least played Beatles albums. Like like the original like incarnation, like of like Let It Be, and like it probably is because of kind of songs like this kind of creeping in like on the album.
Interesting, we both have a George song at number 9 there. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I wouldn't say it's not on my list, but it does make you think, why is that on that album when George at that point had so many great songs?
Yeah.
I mean, right, number 8, I'm kind of sticking quite with the early Beatles stuff here. We're going with a song off with the Beatles, and it's Little Child.
Little child, little child, little child, won't you dance with me?
Which is a song, again, it annoys me. I don't know what it is about it. It's one of those really early Beatles songs. It's got the harmonica on, which is fine. But yeah, it's just, to me, this album, it starts off really great. The 4 tracks that kick off this album, It Won't Be Long, All I've Got to Do, All My Lovin', Don't Bother Me. I think that is a great run of tracks. And then the wheels just come off with Little Child. I just think, yeah, there's something about this song that I don't listen to it all that often either. So, yeah, there's not really much to say about it, really. It's just filler. That is all this song is to me. It's filler. I'm just noticing, actually, the track after this is Till There Was You, which if we had included covers, that would be very near the top of my list.
Really? You're not a fan of that?
No, I've never liked that. But that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, Little Child, for me, it's just filler. It's boring. It's just out for something, as they would say. So that's
Fair
my
enough.
number 8.
Yeah. That for me was on my kind of long list for this. So I think I had about 20 odd tracks which were in contention, and that was definitely one of them. I've actually just got at number like 11. Like if I had so yeah, I guess that one was high up for me, and that album like in particular is probably one which I'm going to be showing a fair bit towards like, the kind of top end. Like my list. Okay, so now at my number 8, another controversial one. This song is almost sacred in the Beatles kind of community fandom, whatever. So it's from the debut album, and it's a debut single, "Love Me Do."
Love me do. You know I love you.
Which I'm going for at number 8. Again, another one which hurts, I'm sure. For me, this one is. I just don't find this song particularly good lyrically. I get it was early doors for them, but by this point they had so many other songs, which could have made a great, cracking, impactful debut single. Please Please Me, I Saw Her Standing There, are so much stronger than this. They just have so much more of a backbone. But this one, the lyrics are just rather weak, and for me, the musical arrangement is just rather weak as well. And I get it. The song has now become legendary, but at the time, this was a flop single. This came out. It only reached number 17 in like the UK charts. So it would be the next single where they'd really, get any kind of mainstream attention. And it's only because this song kind of reached number 1 again, like America. I think like 2 years after, it was like released, it became the iconic Beatles debut, their first number 1. When in actual fact it really wasn't. And I think it's just a rather limp kind of sort of single for me, and it's just a song which I've never really cared much for, to be honest. So yeah, Love Me Do at number 8.
See, that was the very first Beatles song I ever heard. Which it's always something I'm quite chuffed about. That the first Beatles song I ever heard was the first one of people in the 60s. Yeah, but I do get what you mean. It's not on my list, but it isn't exactly. It's not one of the best songs, but
yeah,
I couldn't. I enjoyed the song and I couldn't put it on my list. And I just felt it would be blasphemy to put it on the personally.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I'd say that's probably the hottest take of my hot takes on this list. I'd say that one and Don't Let Me Down. So I think I'm in safe territory. I think from here on.
Safe territory after this. There's one I think I've got still to come that might raise eyebrows, but we'll get to that one. For now, though, we are going with another B-side, and I do actually own the single for this one. I haven't got it just in this, but it's the B-side to Ticket to Ride, which is Yes It Is.
If you were red tonight.
Yes It Is. So, John Lennon said in later years, I think this was basically him trying to rewrite This Boy. And I can see what he means, and yeah, it's a really dreary song. It sounds like they're bored. It sounds like they have no enthusiasm for this song listening to it. And yeah, it's just the lyrics are nothing great. If you were red tonight, remember what I said tonight, and stuff like that. It's just uninspired. It's just like, it's typical. It's what should be a B-side, really. I mean, it's just nothing special. Although I do like the earlier take of it on Anthology 2, I think, which is just like an acoustic version of John on his own. But in terms of them trying to do This Boy again, This Boy, brilliant song. Yes It Is, not a brilliant song. So yeah, I will put Yes It Is at number 7 personally.
My number 7 is my first, and I'm just looking at my list. I was going to say only, but I have got another Ringo song on my list somewhere. But I'm going for What Goes On.
What goes on in your heart?
This one has got quite an interesting history. Lennon wrote the track originally in 1963, and they had this lying around. Basically, they passed up on it on all their albums that got to this point, and then Making Rubber Soul is quite interesting. It's quite interesting to kind of read now, that they were basically rush recorded this album, considering how great it actually was. So they went back and did, I think Wait was from the Help sessions, and then this song they kind of were like, we need to find a Ringo song, so they kind of resurrected this kind of throwaway track which hadn't made the cut for any of the other albums. For me, it's a bad recording, this as well, so yeah, it's not a bad song, but it's more just the recording. George's guitar lines are just so uninspired on it, and just it just sounds like it is just absolute filler for me. And it just sounds like a half-assed like recording like throughout. Really, I mean, Ringo's vocal has a charm to it, as they always do, But it's far from a favourite again. And at number 7 was where it sat.
That nearly made my list. It's not on my list, but it nearly did.
Okay, interesting.
Basically, the same reasons you said. It does just feel half-assed. It just feels like it's filler. Yeah. I agree with everything you say on that one. Right, number 6, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Number 6. We're going back with the Beatles again, and I'm going with a Ringo song. It's "I Want to Be Your Man."
I wanna be your lover, baby. I wanna be your man.
Which is a song which, again, it's always annoyed me, this song. I don't know what it is. It's just something about it. It's just the lyrics. There's not really any lyrical content to it. I know, I think Stones, I know it was their first proper single, the Stones, but I think they put it out just before the Beatles version came out. I've actually seen the Stones do it live, as a side note. But in terms of the Beatles version of it, it's filler. It's just it just feels like it's simply there for Ringo to sing. And it's just not really much to say about it. It's there to fill a place. And I don't want to hate on Ringo because I do like his voice, but there's just something about this song that just annoys me again. So number 6, "Wanna Be Your Man." That's what I would put there.
That one we'll get to. It's that one's to come on my list. But again, it's a common theme of this video, this album with the Beatles. My number 6 is a track which I actually it's probably the Beatles' most forgettable song, but I'm going for "Not a Second Time." Yeah, it's a strange song, this as well, in some ways, which it just has a very uninspired melody on it. It's completely forgettable, this one here, which very few Beatles songs are. A lot of Beatles songs have got a great hook on them, but this one just doesn't have any hook, to be honest. And it's got a kind of very weird kind of arrangement where there's a kind of piano. It's quite a piano-driven song, so I suppose in some ways it was maybe quite innovative, in them expanding their musical palette, so it's basically like a piano-led track this here, but it sounds like it's being played at one speed and they're playing it at another speed, and it just sounds very disjointed to my ears. And it's just as I said, not a track which I ever really play. I completely forget about, and it was only when I was kind of basically running through the whole discography on Spotify, scrolling through, I was like, oh yeah, that song, how does that one go again? And I kind of play it and it's not very good. So not a second time. Number 6.
For me, that very nearly made my list. I was umming and ahhing about that one, between that and Little Child. It was one of the two. It was one of them for me. It had to be one or the other. But I listened to them both earlier today to make a final decision, and I thought, I prefer Not a Second Time to Little Child. So that's why Little Child went on the list. Anyway, number 5. If I can reach for it, we're going to the White Album. And I can't remember if we said at the start, but we also had the little rule that we wouldn't include a song like Revolution 9 and Wild Honey Pie and stuff like that, just because otherwise the list would be filled with stuff like that. But I am going with the track just after Revolution 9, which is the closing track of the White Album, Good Night.
It's time to say.
As far as I'm concerned, when I listen to the White Album, this album, it ends with Cry Baby Cry. After that, the album gets switched off for me. I don't want to listen to Revolution 9, and Good Night is not worth sitting through Revolution 9 for. To me, this is like a Disney song. I know John wrote it as a lullaby for Julian, but it just sounds like a Disney thing. But it's kind of a shame, because on the 50th anniversary edition of the White Album that came out, I think it's take 4 of Good Night was released, which had all 4 Beatles on playing acoustic guitars in a finger-picking style, like Dear Prudence, Julia, Blackbird, that style. And all 4 of them were singing in harmony on the chorus, and it is so much better than the version that they released on this album. And I don't get why they didn't follow that version through and close it like that, because if they had done that, to me, this probably wouldn't have been on the list. I would listen to it more than I'd actually listen to this version of Good Night. But to me, it's just boring. It's boring, basically. That's a common word I keep using in this, but number 5 for me, Good Night.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel like a Beatles song, you know. It does feel
No,
like
it doesn't.
and that's what really gives, I guess, the White Album. I think it's why some people love the White Album, but I think it's also maybe why some people think that it's maybe is not the Beatles' most definitive work, I guess, or something like that, you know, because, you know, they go from something like Revolution Now, which again sounds nothing like the Beatles, into Goodnight, and it's not on my list, but I've always slightly liked that juxtaposition of the two. I think that's a kind of stroke of genius going from absolute chaos, almost scary kind of sounding song to suddenly you're in like a Little Mermaid or something, you know. It's just it's such a huge contrast, which I think is more that's what makes it good for me more than the actual song itself, which like you say, it's very lullaby, but the string arrangement is just too far over the top for me. It's just and also at this point in the video, I would just give a wee shout out to Ollie's series that he's doing on the White Album.
Thank
a little
you very
plug.
much.
So he's done I think 2 videos so far. Well, it depends when this comes out. You might have done like the Glass Onion episode, we'll see. But no, fantastic series he's doing, looking at every song on the White Album. So yeah, give that a watch if you can. Yeah, fantastic series there.
Thank you.
Funny enough, sticking with the White Album, I'm going for the White Album, and I think again this is maybe one that might raise a few eyebrows. Perhaps I did say there wasn't going to be another hot take, but this is going to be a little bit of a hot take. Cry Baby Cry.
Cry, baby, cry, make your mother sigh.
For me, oh no, I see. No, you're gonna walk. You're gonna walk out on it. This one for me, it's a song I probably used to like more than I do now. You know, like I used to think that, it's a really good, solid Beatles song. It's good stuff. Great kind of. I think it was the drumming from Ringo was good at. But for me, it's the lyrics on the kind of verses just have this kind of fairy tale, kind of mythical kind of feel to it, and the King of Marigold was in the kitchen cooking breakfast for the Queen, all that kind of stuff. I just don't connect with it. I just think it's kind of nonsense lyrics, but not nonsense in a kind of I am the walrus kind of. It's kind of so nonsensey. It's genius, you know. It's kind of like it's just this kind of daft kind of fairy tale story which shouldn't say anything, and then this chorus which just goes. And again, it's the "Don't Let Me Down" syndrome, goes round and round and round again, and by the end of the song, you're just sick of it. For me, what this song really needs is a good bridge, you know, a kind of like a middle 8 section to kind of keep you interested in it. But it just doesn't have that, and it's just, for me, it is a song which just gets more annoying as it goes on. Like it's kind of it kind of builds well, you know. The kind of starts off, you've got like the kind of, I think it's just John his acoustic, that's great. The first chorus is good, the drums come in, okay, we're getting a good song, but then it just goes on and on in that sort of style for me. And yeah, it's maybe in hindsight now it's maybe a little bit high. I'm thinking, should have put this above What Goes On and Not a Second Time? Maybe not, but it was just when I was kind of preparing this video, it was just one that has to be on my list somewhere, and number 5 was where it fell. So yeah, Cry Baby Cry, number 5.
I love that song.
Wow.
I love it. I can kind of see what you're saying, but I disagree with it. I just find it a really charming song. Although, interestingly, I think in later years, John Lennon actually denied even writing that song because he hated it that much.
Well, at least I agree with John Lennon on that one then.
Yeah, but I don't know if you've heard it, but on the deluxe edition of the White Album that came out, there's an unnumbered rehearsal of that, which is it takes it down a completely different route. It's like this Pink Floyd sounding thing with an organ and stuff on it. It sounds, it's really nice. If you haven't heard it,
I don't think
I'll send you after this if you want. But I actually tend to listen to that version more than I do the actual version on the White Album. So, it's a good song though, I think. Yeah,
for me, and also, just the arrangement is very similar to, I guess, something like Sexy Sadie. You know, it sounds like it's the same arrangement as that song, you know, in terms of the instruments used and that, you know, it's just not doing anything new for me at that point on the White Album. But anyway.
It's my turn to be controversial.
Okay.
Right, hang on, if I can reach for it. We are going to Let It Be, and we are going with The Long and Winding Road. But it's the Phil Spector version.
Right.
If I include the Let It Be Naked version, wouldn't be anywhere near this list. I love the Let It Be Naked version of this song, but the Phil Spector version, completely over the top, completely overproduced. I hate it. It makes me want to be sick.
God, that's
how
strong.
much I don't like. That is
And it's
strong.
only at number 4.
It's only at number 4.
And it makes you
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah. Yeah, I just go out my way not to. I just avoid this song the best I can. Yeah, I hate it. I think the story was Phil Spector did the strings for this behind Paul's back, and Paul didn't know until it was too late and all that jazz. But apparently, I think the reason he did it was John's playing the bass on this song, and the bass wasn't good enough. So I think the strings were brought in to cover it up. But suffice it to say that Paul did not like what Mr. Spector did to this song, and I don't. Yeah. So I can't. I'm not. The song itself, I like the song. The lyrics are fine. Paul's all of that in it is fine. But this version, it's not a Beatles song. It's Paul McCartney with a choir and a fully blown wall of sound orchestra. And yeah, the Phil Spector version of this, I hate it. I hate it with a passion.
Yeah.
Oh, it's making me annoyed just thinking about it.
My number 4 now, we're returning to With the Beatles here, and it is the track Hold Me Tight. Which I'm going for, which is the absolute definition of album filler for me. I'm not sure, do you like that one? Do you like Hold Me Tight? Oh, really? Gosh. Wow. Well, this is one which even McCartney himself has described as maybe a bit like Thank You Girl, like as a kind of work song, like he described it, just a kind of another one they were pumping out the kind of like the Lennon McCartney duel, like sort of like at like this point, like just a song which you just write in 5 minutes and forget about, and it's a poor recording of it for me. I don't think McCartney sings it particularly well, and it's yeah, it's just very forgettable. So I've not really got much more to say about that one. It's just a song which I never play, because I just don't think much of it.
If we'd done this video about a month or 2 ago, I'd have agreed with you on that. But I don't know if you've heard of the band The Lemon Twigs, but they do a cover live of Hold Me Tight.
Okay.
For, like, huge Beatles fans. Look for it on YouTube if you haven't seen them doing it live. And them doing that live has made me really appreciate that song again. Like live, it's a really good song live, them doing it live. So that's why it's kind of grown on me. Otherwise, I'd have been agreeing with you there that it's filler, but it's just in the last few months, it's really grown on me again, that song. So, right, number 3. I'm going to play a game with you here, Ross.
Okay.
I'm going to hold an album up and give you one guess to see if you can guess which song off this album it is in one.
Right. I don't want to say Yellow Submarine because that would be too obvious. Is it?
I'm going with the obvious one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yellow Submarine. I know it's a kid's song and all of that. That's its intention, but it's on Revolver, and it lets the album down so much. As a kid's song, it works fine, but on here, it's sandwiched in between Here, There, and Everywhere, and She Said, which are 2 brilliant songs. It's just, again, I'm going to say this song really annoys me. I was a couple of weeks ago, I was discussing this with my friend, and he was saying that to the younger generation, to our generation, the most famous Beatles song to them is probably Yellow Submarine, which I can kind of see his point. I was arguing it would be something like probably Here Comes the Sun, is what I was arguing, but he was arguing Yellow Submarine. And it's one of them songs that, like, when people don't like the Beatles, those strange people that don't like them, they'll start singing Yellow Submarine or going on about this song, and I find it hard to argue against them taking the mick out of Yellow Submarine, because it's a kid's song, but it's on one of the greatest albums of all time, and it lets it down. So it is an obvious one to go with, I know, but it's what I've gone with anyway. So Yellow Submarine. Well done, you got it.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I thought it might have maybe been sort of like Dr. Robert, possibly, or maybe one of the other.
I like that song
too. But that's the thing. Like they're all too good. Like on like Revolver. Apart from that,
yeah,
it's one I didn't consider because I do quite like it. I like all the psychedelic sound effects. It was quite groundbreaking for its time it like in like the Beatles' career, you know, it's one of their first kind of uses of, I guess, sampling like that, you know, like alongside say something like Tomorrow Never Knows, like from like that same album. So but yeah, you're right, it does kind of ruin the flow like of Revolver like a little bit. I think probably wouldn't, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but probably wouldn't have been on your list if it maybe had just been on the Submarine soundtrack, possibly. You know, like if it hadn't been ruining.
No, I don't think it would have been.
Greatest albums, yeah.
Yeah. If I'm listening to Revolver, that gets skipped personally. Personally.
Yeah, but no, I don't mind a bit of Yellow Submarine from time to time. So number 3 for me, this is one which I'm not sure if this is maybe out with the ground rules we set about not choosing things like Revolution 9 or like Wild Honey Pie, but I'm going for You Know My Name, Look Up the Number. So. I'm not sure like if this is one which you would have chosen.
No, that one's I did consider that one, but I actually like the song. That's why I haven't.
Fair enough. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, this is probably the Beatles. I'd say their most obscure a song. You know, like no one, like even probably a lot of people who would consider themselves pretty big Beatles fans who probably have all their albums and know the big singles and some of the kind of the key B-sides. This song's probably passed them by, and I think for good reason, because it is this kind of comedy number. Is basically like how like you would describe it. A kind of they're putting on all these funny voices and sort of shouting and random shit basically like throughout like the track, and it's just. It's one of my least favorite. It's one of my least played Beatles songs. It's a song I always forget about, and they were just it just kind of, I guess, desperate to find a B-side. You know, by this point, a B-side to like Let It Be. You know, so their last single, last B-side, and it just reeks a kind of filler, and probably should have stayed in the vault alongside things like what's the new Mary Jane and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's just not it's not really a song, but it's just not a great recording, and it's not one of my favourites. So number 3 there. You Know My Name, Look Up the Number.
I like that song. I know I'm probably in the minority there. I always forget about it, but when I hear it, I'm like, oh, I really like this. But it's funny. I think you mentioned there What's the New Mary Jane, but I'm pretty sure at the time John Lennon wanted to put that out as a single. What's the New Mary Jane? That and You Know My Name, Look Up the Number, as like a double A side sort of thing. But obviously it never happened. But
no. Good job they chose Hey Jude and Revolution instead. You know, I think that was a much better decision.
Slightly better, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things I love about that song is got Brian Jones on it playing the saxophone.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I think what happened was, I want to say this might actually be the day Sgt. Pepper came out. It was either the day it came out or it was the week it came out. It was around that period anyway. And they were in the studio. It was when they were recording stuff for like Magical Mystery Tour and stuff. And they asked Brian Jones to come down to place on what they were recording. And they were expecting to bring a guitar or something like that. But he showed up with a saxophone. So I think it was Paul's idea to record that. So the saxophone on that is Brian Jones. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I like it.
Yeah, and I guess when like, you know, the story, you know, the fact that it was kind of it was from I guess they had just finished Sgt. Pepper, you know, a lot of hard work, you know, they've been grafting on that for like 6 months or whatever it had been, you know, and then suddenly it's out there and they're like, oh, we can relax now. So this was almost like a kind of just them having fun, you know, kind of winding down, kind of like after that hard work. So I guess once you know that, it does give it a bit of charm, but I think just as a new listener coming in, you just think, hell is this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Number 2, is it?
It's number 2 now, yes.
It's a single that I don't own, I don't think, so I'm holding up Past Masters, and it's the B-side to Lady Madonna. It's The Inner Light.
Without going out of my door.
Okay.
Which, I don't know if this is going to be a controversial choice, but it's like George and his whole Indian stuff. I quite like it. I like stuff like Love You Too and Within You Without You. I think they're 2 fine songs, but there's just something about The Inner Light which for me it goes a bit too far down that Indian route, which, you know, it's fine in like small doses, but by this song I wouldn't go out my way to listen to. It was around the time when George was doing his first solo album, Wonderwall Music. I wonder what band nicked that title for something else.
It'll come to me at some point.
It will.
My brain.
But yeah, this song, I think there's actually a version of it on Wonderwall Music. It's maybe like a bonus track or something, but it doesn't feel like a Beatles song. There's just something about it. It just doesn't gel with us, and I don't really know what to say about it. It doesn't gel with us, and yeah, it doesn't make me want to be sick in a bucket like Long Winding Road. But I can't say that this is a better song than the Long and Winding Road because I don't think it is. Lyrically, it's just I can't remember what the lyrics are. So obviously it hasn't made that big an impact on us. But George, with his lyrics, I actually think George as a lyricist is probably the strongest of the four in some ways because I think George's lyrics can be really, really good. And these ones are probably really, really good. I just can't remember them. So yeah, for that reason, I'm going to put it at number 2, The Inner Light.
Yeah, interesting. Well, yeah, it's probably again for me. It's not one of my most played Beatles. So it's probably is one of my least played, just because it is so buried away, like as a kind of B-side. But and it probably is George's weakest Indian one, I'd say. I don't mind that one. I think it doesn't like outstay its welcome either. It's quite a short track, isn't it? So I think it's just one easier, like over and done with.
It was the first George Penn song to go on a Beatles single as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's true. Yeah. Interesting. Got all the facts.
Shame, really. Yeah, I've got all the facts.
Brilliant. Right. Well, this one, my number 2, is one that you've already shown and talked about. Again, from With the Beatles, it's I Want to Be Your Man.
I want to be your lover, baby. I want to be your man.
Which I had on my notes saying controversial choice, but if you've picked it, it can't be that controversial. I think it's just a song that just gets so much more attention than it deserves, I think. Because it's often seen as a kind of early spotlight for Ringo, like kind of like when they did all of their tours, this was Ringo's song right up until their last tour. This was the song like he sang, and it's just not very good. And you can understand why they kind of gave the Rolling Stones this rather than something that was actually good. Like it just sounds so throwaway, so repetitive lyrically. It is their most repetitive song lyrically. And it just musically just doesn't excite me. You can get like there's a kind of the kind of solo bit, they're giving it a few whoops and yeahs and all that, but it just doesn't, and it's supposed to sound spontaneous, but to me it just doesn't. It just sounds a bit stilted, and especially I think it's even one that I think Paul has started to play live in recent years as a solo artist, which just why he's doing this one is just beggars belief, when he's got so many other like What You Doing and Martha My Dear like haven't been performed live, and yet he's giving us this. It's just daft. So yeah, not a fan. Number one, the big reveal.
Number 1, the big reveal. I hope I was saying to Ross there before we got going, I hope my number 1 here isn't going to break the rules that we set with like no Revolution 9 Wild Honey Pie type of thing. But to me, this is a proper song. I wouldn't say they are proper songs, but this is a proper song. We are going onto the Magical Mystery Tour EP, or album, as the Americans would say. And I'm going with Flying.
Okay.
Which is the instrumental track off it. If you've seen the film, it's the bit, I think it's like the bird's eye view shots of Iceland, which are all in like these psychedelic colours. Works fine on that bit of the film, but as a song to listen to on its own, it's filler. It's just, I don't really like it, to be honest. I don't think it's a great instrumental. It's one of the very few tracks out there where all 4 of them have writing credits on. But yeah, I don't know what to say about Flying. It's just, there's no words for it, in my opinion. It's just filler. It's just filler. Yeah, so that's my number 1, Flying. I'm sorry if that offends people, or maybe that's what a lot of people would go with, but I don't care what anyone says, it's by far the weakest track on Magical Mystery Tour. I think we can all at least agree on that. But yeah, for me, that is the weakest Beatles track, excluding covers and Revolution 9 and stuff. But that's my number 1, Flying.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting choice there. I think, for me, I think it's maybe just the fact that it is quite, it's got that kind of, like the psychedelic thing, what they were into. I quite like the tape loops at the end of it. Maybe clutching at straws a little bit. The tape loops at the end are good. What else? But the choral chant, that's nothing really, it's just not, it's not brilliant. So no, unstandable number 1. Now my number 1 might be more controversial because it was actually featured in one of their films. So maybe a high-profile song of certainly more high-profile than some of the ones I've gone for. From A Hard Day's Night, and it's Tell Me Why. Which is, I'm maybe replaying again, have a been too harsh, but it's a song which I probably actively dislike. You know, I dislike the chorus, it's annoying, and there's a bit in it where they go, is there anything I can do? And they do it really high. I hate that. I hate that with all my passion. And I think it's that for me, which is why it's my number one least favourite Beatles songs. I always skip it, no matter what I'm doing, you know, and it's, I was just say, it's at the end of side one, it's not, you've got Can't Buy Me Love, like, out at the end of it, so I sort of following it up, so it's not even like you can easily skip this track, like, on vinyl. I just dislike it, and it is, as I said, like, one of the few Beatles songs, probably only out of, like, these first, it's probably, like my top three, what's it, You Know My Name, I Wanna Be Man, and this one are probably the three Beatles songs that I dislike. You know, like all the others are just meh or filler or whatever. But these are the three that I actually dislike. And yeah, this one just came out like on top. So not a fan, and tell me why. But that might well be another controversial hot take.
I like that song. I'm kind of shocked. I wasn't expecting that.
Interesting, yeah.
Genuinely, I would never have thought that in a million years. I don't know what I was expecting, but it definitely wasn't. Tell me why.
Fair enough. Well, that's been a really enjoyable video, I thought, and it's actually quite interesting that we've only actually crossed over the once, didn't we? With
we did.
I Want to Be a Man. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the first. Normally, we have quite similar lists, don't we, when we do these videos?
Sometimes,
this is the first time where it's been predominantly we've picked different songs completely.
Yeah. Which I think just in a way does show the strength of the Beatles catalogue, you know, the fact that, you know, there's not a kind of rump of songs at the bottom of their catalogue, or like a general consensus of these are bad Beatles songs objectively. Like everyone can have their own opinion of them. And yeah, it's quite interesting that we only did cross over like the once, and a track which I actively dislike, you think's all right, and kind of vice versa. It's hilarious, you know. We're not going to fall out about this or anything, but just a bit of fun. But that's been really good. Again, thanks for coming on the channel again, Ollie. You're always
thank you for having me.
Welcome to come on, and always enjoy doing these videos. So I'd like to know in the comments what some of your least favourite Beatles songs are. Please don't be too abusive to us in the comments, but I'm sure it'll be all fine. And and thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks.
See you later.
Bye.